I gave my daughter-in-law, Emily, a warm smile as she handed me a mimosa. "Thank you, sweetheart," I said, bringing the glass to my lips and savoring the indulgence of champagne mixed with orange juice, especially at this hour. It was barely 10 a.m., and I could only hope none of the grandkids would come over, expecting me to share. A soft giggle from my left pulled my attention. Turning, I grinned at the sight of Olivia, my 4-year-old granddaughter, and Sophia, her 3-year-old cousin, twirling in their brand-new dresses. Olivia's was a beautiful lavender shade, cinched at the waist with a wide satin ribbon, while Sophia's was nearly identical in a soft pink hue. The craftsmanship was remarkable, each tiny sequin on the bodice carefully sewn by hand. The dresses were a labor of love from my second daughter-in-law, Jessica, who had gone the extra mile to decorate their ballet slippers and even craft delicate magic wands to complete the look. No wonder they carried themselves like fairy tale princesses. Before I could admire them longer, a blur of movement streaked across my vision. My 6-year-old grandson, Ethan, bolting between the girls, clutching his Captain America shield. Right behind him, his cousin Noah tore through the room, dressed as Iron Man but wielding Thor's hammer. I smirked to myself. Clearly, he had no problem being 2 superheroes at once. Their little feet pounded across the floor, shaking the ornaments on the Christmas tree as they charged past. Standing by the back door, my son Daniel chuckled as he held it open, letting them storm outside. I shook my head with a fond sigh. It felt like just yesterday that my husband, Mark, did the mark for our boys. They had been just as wild, just as full of energy and mischief. Glancing around the living room, a deep sense of contentment settled over me. Christmas had always been my favorite time of year, especially when the entire family was under one roof. My 2 sons, their wives, their children, and my daughter, Rachel, who was expecting her first baby this year, along with her husband, Brian. Mark and I had our doubts about Brian in the beginning. Being 10 years older than Rachel and a naturally reserved man, he seemed like an odd match for our lively daughter. But we had been wrong. He adored her, encouraged her passion for archaeology, and fully understood the struggles of balancing a career with family life. Most importantly, he made her happy. And really, what more could we ask for? "Hey, Mom, Dad told me to give you this," my eldest son, James, said, handing me a small gift box along with a card. "Oh," I raised an eyebrow, taking them from him. "I thought we'd already opened everything." James simply shrugged, amusement flickering in his eyes. "What can I say? I'm just the messenger." I smiled, noting how much he looked like his father with each passing year, and accepted the gift. As etiquette dictated, I opened the card first. Open your gift before reading the letter. I suggest doing this in private. Mark and his sense of mystery. Amused, I glanced around the room, hoping to catch his eye and give him a knowing wink, but he was nowhere in sight. Curious, I slipped away to the study, shutting the door behind me. The lively chatter of my family faded, replaced by quiet solitude. Settling into Mark's leather armchair, I carefully unwrapped the gift, anticipation building with every movement. Lifting the lid, I expected something personal, something intimate. Instead, nestled inside was a stunning pendant, delicately crafted from silver, gold, and rose gold, its surface adorned with tiny diamonds. At first glance, it seemed abstract, but as I studied it closer, I realized the intricate design hid a message within its swirls. The greatest gift of all. My breath caught. The craftsmanship was extraordinary, the design both clever and elegant. The words weren't immediately obvious, but once I saw them, I couldn't unsee them. It was a statement piece, one I could wear high on a delicate chain over a blouse or lower against a sweater. I loved it instantly. Only Mark would find something so unique. As instructed, I unfolded the thin pages tucked inside the card. The moment I recognized Mark's handwriting, I smiled, expecting a love letter. Even after all these years, I still counted myself lucky to have a husband who adored me so deeply. Dear Karen, I trust you've deciphered the message hidden in the pendant. If not, take another look. You need to understand its meaning before reading further. It says, the greatest gift of all. That is what I am giving you this Christmas. My gift to you is forgiveness. I am offering you a second chance. Contact your lover today. Tell him it's over, that you can't go through with this, that you've changed your mind. Tell him you never want to see or hear from him again. The letter slipped from my trembling hands and landed in my lap as a sharp gasp escaped me. The air seemed to drain from the room, leaving me struggling for breath. My chest tightened. My heart pounded so violently I wondered if I was having a heart attack. A small, shameful part of me almost wished I was. If I died right now, I wouldn't have to face Mark. I wouldn't have to see the pain in his eyes, the silent condemnation of a man who had given me nothing but love. I wouldn't have to endure the crushing weight of my children's disappointment, of my family knowing that I had betrayed them. Mark knew. Oh God, my Mark knew. A sob caught in my throat, thick and suffocating, as shame and guilt wrapped around my chest like a vice. My hands trembled as I reached for the letter, every fiber of my being screaming for me to stop. But I forced myself to continue. Mark deserved that much. He deserved to be heard. I won't go into details about how I suspected, what I did to confirm those suspicions, or what I ultimately uncovered. But I know his name is Derek Wallace. I know enough to understand that you're planning to sleep with him on New Year's Eve. And I know even more than that, I know you've already made a mockery of the 35 years we've built together. Before you keep reading, stop and think. This is what you've reduced me to. I have to write a letter just to be heard. Tears blurred my vision. I could feel his pain in every word. Raw, unguarded, and unbearable. Mark, the man who never allowed himself to be vulnerable, the man who carried the weight of the world without complaint, had been driven to this. And I was the reason why. My selfishness, my vanity, my weakness. What can I say, Karen? Once upon a time, I had a beautiful and loving wife. A house that was too big, but good. A wonderful family I was endlessly proud of. Life was good. The kids were amazing. The grandkids? Even better. And then, one bright and sunny morning, I woke up and realized it had all been an illusion. My world crumbled beneath me. I felt like I had been shoved into a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. You know what I've come to understand? Emotions don't stay still. You can't tuck them away into neat little boxes and pretend they don't exist. Not completely. Not forever. They aren't bricks you can stack in a corner and close the door on. They're more like water. They flow. They rise and fall. They seep into places they have no business being. His words seeped into me now, too, and they burned like fire. This poisoned water filled my mind, tainting every thought, polluting every waking moment. Then it spilled over, spreading to my heart, my gut, my limbs, seeping into every crack, every shadowed corner, every staircase, and every room of our home. It never stopped. It just kept eating away at me. The foundation is crumbling, and soon there will be nothing left to hold me up. You were my foundation, Karen. But now I've realized you're not sheltering me. It's not you and me against the world anymore. You're not the loving and loyal woman I thought you were. And without that faith, the rest of my life feels like ash in my mouth. Everything I've worked for over the last 35 years, every sacrifice, every compromise, feels meaningless, as if it all amounted to nothing. Mark's words shook me to my core. What had I done? What had I destroyed? Mark, steady, dependable, loyal Mark. Mark, my rock. The man who was always there. The wonderful father, the provider, the man who told terrible jokes and couldn't cook to save his life. The man who loved his family with every ounce of his being. And now that Mark man believed his life was worthless. Because of me. Regret wasn't a strong enough word to describe the depth of my sorrow. I had been a fool. A vain, selfish fool, basking in the attention of a younger man. And for what? I wasn't unhappy. I wasn't bored. I wasn't dissatisfied with my marriage or with Mark or with the life we had built. Quite the opposite. The truth, the ugly, shameful truth, was that I did it for the fleeting thrill of feeling young and desirable again. I let my own vanity drive me to the brink of ruin. What kind of person does that? What kind of woman destroys the love of her life just to stroke her ego? A drop of water hit Mark's carefully written words. I blinked, startled, before lifting my hand to my face. My cheeks were wet. I hadn't even realized I was crying. Maybe I shouldn't say this now. Maybe I should save it for the final paragraphs. But I can't. I have to tell you. If you don't end this affair today, I won't fight you over the house, or the money, or any of the material things that suddenly feel so meaningless to me. None of that matters. I also won't fight this man for your heart. I won't beg for you. I won't chase you. I won't try to win you back with romantic gestures. I won't make a list of all the reasons you should choose your marriage over your affair. And I sure as hell won't plead. I shouldn't have to. That fight should have been over the day you said yes to my proposal. But honestly, how could I compete? He's younger. He's new. He's a mystery waiting to be unraveled. A fresh, sweet taste for you to savor. And me? I'm old. Predictable. Plain old vanilla. Compete? Oh, Mark, you don't need to compete. You're mine. You've always been mine. I lost my way. Oh, my love. Please forgive me. I've been a foolish, foolish woman. Seeing myself through Mark's eyes, I finally understood. There was nothing beautiful about what I had done. Nothing thrilling. When did I become so vulnerable to flattery? So desperate? When did I lose sight of what really mattered? The questions clawed at me, but I shoved them aside. I knew I'd have to face them eventually. But right now, what mattered most was finishing Mark's letter, truly listening to his words. What you've done has struck such a blow to my heart that I don't think it will ever fully heal. I never knew pain like this existed, and it never stops. It just keeps going, over and over, without end. Every night for the past month, I've watched you sleep, silently screaming in my head, begging to know why you never told me you were unhappy, why you never gave me the chance to fix whatever you felt was missing. Why wasn't my love enough for you? Why wasn't my devotion enough? Do you have any idea what it was like, sitting across from you at dinner? Watching TV beside you, reading the paper with you, all while wondering what I had done to deserve a wife who was a million miles away. Even when you were with me, you weren't really with me. It felt like there was some grand concert or party happening right next door, and if it weren't for me, you'd be there instead. My breath hitched. His pain was unbearable, and I had caused every bit of it. Oh, Mark, you were always enough. Even as I thought it, doubt crept in. If he was enough, why had I let another man's attention tempt me? No, that wasn't it. Mark was enough. The problem was me. I was the one terrified of growing older. The one afraid of no longer being wanted. This aching, endless need, it was inside me. Not him. I don't have the words to describe what it felt like. The hollow, crushing loneliness that settled in my chest every time I held you over these past 4 weeks. Knowing you were thinking of him. Knowing you craved his attention, his praise, his touch, his kisses. Every time you said, I love you, it didn't warm my heart like it used to. It only felt like another knife to the gut. Your love, your affection, they're tainted now, poisoned by lies and betrayal. I thought I knew you, Karen, but I was wrong. And the worst part? I knew he was right. Yes, I know that was another lie, that you were with him that night. It was late. I pretended to be asleep. You nudged me gently, patted my shoulder. I think you were trying to wake me, hoping we would make love. And that thought filled me with rage. The idea that you would come to me, seeking my embrace after spending your evening with him. I wanted to roll over and strangle you. Instead, I remained still, breathing evenly, feigning sleep. After a few moments, you gave up. You pressed yourself against my back, wrapped an arm around me as if everything was fine. But that wasn't the worst part. You sighed, and after 35 years, I know every single one of your sighs. This one, it was content. It reminded me of Whiskers, the cat we had when the kids were little. He used to let out that Mark-satisfied breath after stretching, after tearing my favorite armchair to shreds with his claws. And in that moment, Karen, you were just like that damn cat. You clawed at my heart, left it shredded and bleeding, and then you sighed, perfectly at peace with it. I shuddered, the memory of that night searing into me like a fresh wound. I had come home that evening feeling confident, beautiful. Now I knew the truth. Mark had known. He had known the entire time. God, how he must have felt. Used. Betrayed. The thought of it made my skin crawl. How disgusting it was to realize that I had spent the evening soaking up Derek's compliments, flirting, fueling the very fire that would eventually burn my marriage to the ground. Only to come home expecting to feel that Mark warmth with Mark. How had I never seen it before? I hadn't come home to my husband that night. I had come home to use him, like a toy, a convenience, like a stray cat who drifts between houses, taking food and affection wherever it's offered, never fully belonging to anyone. Mark was right. I had been that stray cat, carefree, selfish, blind to the love that had surrounded me for 35 years. And the woman in Mark's letter? She wasn't someone I recognized. She was cruel, reckless. Where had my kindness gone? The honesty I had always prided myself on. When had I abandoned it? I set the letter on my lap with trembling hands, covering my face. I wanted to hide from the truth, to shut it out. But I couldn't, because the person Mark saw in me wasn't who I wanted to be. I had been a woman who raised 3 children with love and integrity. A woman who believed in loyalty, in truth. I had spent years teaching my children to be honest, to be decent, to be kind. And yet, here I was, lost in a mess of lies I had woven myself. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. It felt like when I used to jog, when the burning in my lungs made me want to stop, but I pushed through, knowing I had to keep going. I needed that strength now. I needed clarity. I had to finish reading Mark's letter. I've loved you for so long, Karen. Nearly my entire adult life. Feelings like that don't just disappear overnight. They can't be turned off like a light switch. But at the Mark time, something else has taken root. Something dark. Something bitter. I'm angry. I'm hurt. I'm humiliated. And yes, I'm vengeful. Right now, I love you, but I also despise you. It's as if my heart and my mind are being thrown into a blender. The love, the resentment, the rage. It's all swirling together. What will come of it? I don't know. I really don't. When I first found out, I was paralyzed. How do you move forward when your worst fears become reality? I thought about throwing you out, about burning it all to the ground. But then I thought about our children, our grandchildren. They don't deserve this. Even if they never know, they'll still feel the ripple effects of what we do. I can't make a decision that will shatter them. So I'm giving you a choice, Karen. A chance. It's either him or me. You have to decide today. If there's any future left for us, I need you to choose me. Choose us. But if you choose him, I can't promise we'll make it. But at least you'll know where I stand. A shudder ran through me. A mix of relief and pain crashing over me all at once. Mark had given me a choice. Even after everything I had done, he was offering me a way back. A chance I didn't deserve. But it had always been him. Mark. I felt his pain in every single word. But I also felt his love. And I was grateful. More than anything, I was grateful. That he still cared enough to offer me this lifeline. That he was still willing to fight for us, even when I had nearly thrown it all away. Tears welled in my eyes as I reached for my phone, my hands shaking. I didn't hesitate. I typed out the message. It's over. I was wrong. I don't want to see you again. Don't call me. Don't text me. Forget my number. I pressed send. And with it came a quiet, suffocating relief. I had made my choice. Now I had to live with it. Later, when the house was still, when the laughter and chatter of our children and grandchildren had faded into the night, I would show Mark the text. I would prove my commitment. But I knew words wouldn't be enough. Mark would need more than that. And I would give it to him. Because asking for forgiveness wasn't enough. I had to show him that I meant it. If you choose me, wear the pendant Mark had written. It's a simple gesture, but it will tell me that you've made your choice. If you choose him, leave the pendant in its case. Set it on the mantelpiece. Then pack your things and leave. We'll begin the divorce proceedings. The choice was mine. Divorce or a second chance. A gift I wasn't sure I deserved, but one I was willing to fight for. Mark wasn't offering me a free pass. His forgiveness, if it ever came, would be something I had to earn. He wasn't making this decision lightly, and neither would I. I had shattered his trust, and rebuilding it would take time. It would take effort. It would take everything. But I was ready. No matter how hard the road ahead, I would fight for him. Mark's words echoed in my mind. Forgiveness doesn't come cheap. It never does. If you want it, you'll have to prove you're worth it. And I would. I felt the full weight of my actions. But for the first time in a long while, I also felt something else. Hope. Mark was giving me a chance. And I would spend the rest of my life proving that I deserved it. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like.